What's up everyone, and thank you for stopping by. Today's project is this Toro lawnmower, and the problem is that the self-propel isn't working like it's supposed to, making this mower somewhat difficult to use. Let's take a good look at it, find out what's wrong with it, and hopefully we can fix it. In this video, we try and repair this mower. However, it may not be the exact repair you need to make to yours. We'll explore other options later in the video. The Toro brand of mowers is one of my favorite of all time, mainly because they have such a varied lineup, from plain push mowers all the way to large zero turns, and from simple engines all the way to powerful commercial ones. Now this one, however, is not all that special, but at least it's a full metal deck, but the engine is less than friendly when it comes to parts availability. In the last video on this mower, we found out that it did run, however, it was running very rough. We then serviced the carb, cleaned the spark plug, and even checked the valve lash. Afterwards, it was running a lot better. The problem, though, even before getting it started, was that the left front wheel would roll backwards, but when you pushed it forward, it would lock up. This is really strange because the right front wheel doesn't have this issue, only the left one. That means if we want to get this mower working the way it's supposed to, we're going to need to inspect the drive system and solve this problem. Now, just to be thorough, I want to check every part of the drive system, which includes the belt, and if it's engaging correctly. The first thing I need to do is remove the cover for the belt, and to do that, just lift the front of the mower up and remove 2 screws. Now, the strange thing was that the first screw was attached properly, while the second one would spin but not come out. Despite this issue, the cover still came off, and then I found the other screw just hanging there. I think the previous owner must have removed the cover and didn't replace the screw correctly. Just so I don't lose them, I'll put them back into the cover. Now, to check its engagement, just lift up on the self-propel bar and watch to see if the pulley for the transmission moves forward, which will then tension the belt against the pulleys. As you can see, it's doing just that, so I don't think there's a belt or pulley issue. It's now finally time to see what's going on with that bad wheel. If I turn the wheel as if the mower was rolling backwards, you can see it spins just fine, but if I turn it the other direction, it'll lock up. So it doesn't matter if the wheels are off the ground for this to happen. You'll also notice that the transmission pulley is not spinning when I turn the wheel in either direction. For comparison, let's try the same thing to the other wheel. As you can see, when I spin the wheel as if the mower is rolling backwards, it spins the pulley, which is something the other wheel wasn't doing. But when I turn the wheel in the other direction, instead of locking up like the other one was doing, it spins just fine, and the pulley stops spinning as well. For this particular style of self-propel, this is what's supposed to happen. Now, yours may not behave this way because they're not all the same. The next thing we need to do is remove the wheel and see if there's something wrong with the plastic teeth on the back of the wheel. Sometimes these teeth will get worn down and can cause intermittent contact with the drive gear, and after looking at them, I don't see any damage to them, which is quite rare for this front-wheel drive system. That means we need to inspect the drive gears and see if there's anything wrong with them. So this is the drive gear, and as you can see, it seems to spin just fine, but the problem is that it's able to freely move off the drive shaft, which it's not supposed to do. That means that the retaining clip and the washer that was behind it has fallen off. I'm kind of surprised that the gear didn't fall off too, but there must not be enough room while the wheel is on. The next thing to do is to carefully remove the gear, taking care not to lose the small key underneath it. So the key sits against the spring in this groove that's in the drive shaft. It's part of a ratcheting system that lets the drive shaft engage the gear so it can turn the wheels, but it's also designed to spin freely when the wheels are turning in the other direction. It works with these notches that are in the drive gear. The problem is that on one side, the pointy part of the notches face one way, but if you turn it around, it'll face the opposite direction. Just like the ratchet in your toolbox, it will then let it work in the opposite direction. My guess is that the previous owner took off the gear and accidentally turned it around. Now, if I spin the pulley in the correct direction, it spins the other wheel like it's supposed to. That means we need to look at the other gear and see what direction the gear needs to be facing. So here's the drive gear for the right side, and as you can see, it looks to be in worse shape than the other side. It's showing signs of wear on the teeth, and there's a lot more play on the shaft. You can also see the pointy part of the notches, and it looks like they're facing forward, but since it's so worn, it's hard to tell. The best thing to do would be to remove the retaining clip and get a better view. Now, after cleaning it off a bit, I can see that the locating part of the retainer is not in the groove for the key, so that means that someone has replaced it but wasn't careful when installing it. This could cause the clip to fall off, and more than likely, that's what happened to the other side. As you can see, it looks as though the points on the notches are supposed to be facing forward, which lets it work like it's supposed to while letting it freewheel in the other direction. However, on the left side of the mower, the points were facing the opposite direction to the rear, which was causing our lockup problem. That means to fix it, we need to turn the gear around in the right direction. But before we do that, I want to service this side with a good cleaning and some lubrication. I also noticed that the washer was also missing on this side as well. I don't want to damage the retaining clips, so I'm going to move the inner washer to the outside. This is a compromise on which clip I want to damage, and I feel as though I'd rather not damage the outer clip than the inner one. Now, since the two gears look a little bit different when it comes to wear, I think the previous owner must have replaced the left side drive gear at some point. However, I do not think they replaced it right before giving it away because the drive gear shows some sign of use. So I couldn't guess as to when they accidentally installed the gear backwards, but it was some time ago. Now, your guess is as good as mine as how they used a mower with one wheel that would lock up. And it also looks as though they never lubricated these gears because this gear is extremely worn out along with the groove where the key sits. The other side isn't any better aside from the gear. Now, to clean the area where the key sits, I'm going to use brake cleaner, and that's because there's old grease in this area. I'm also going to be using lithium grease to lubricate with, and the reason is it's extremely easy to use. If you don't want to use lithium grease, use whatever grease you have on hand. Now, I've been sent service bulletins on what grease I should use, and to be honest, most people never service the gears anyway, so if you want to follow the service bulletins, then be my guest. But for me, I'll keep using lithium grease. And even though I think using WD-40 or some other thin lubricant is not a good idea in this area, if that's all you've got and you don't want to get anything else, then go ahead and use it. Now, on this side of the dry shaft, there are supposed to be two shims behind the gear, but since the outer one was missing, I took them apart and used one on the outside to replace the missing one. Now, after getting the wheels back on the mower, you can see that the left side wheel is now spinning the transmission pulley when we turn it backwards, just like the right side wheel was doing. And more importantly, if we turn the wheel forward, it's not locking up either anymore. So it looks as though we fixed the locking problem, so we can now replace the drive belt cover to get it ready for a test start. Also, while I'm here, I'm going to replace the spark plug as well with a new one. Now, the one we cleaned worked fine, but I felt it better to replace it instead. Now, once the mower is back on the ground, we can now test to see how well the drive wheels work, and as you can see, you can now roll the mower backwards and forwards without any issues. The last thing we need to do is put some oil in the engine and some gasoline in the tank so we can start the engine and finally try out the self-propel. Wow, that was really frustrating. The self-propel is spinning both wheels, but it won't stay that way. It'll spin for a little bit and then stop. The only thing I could think of is that we have a transmission problem, and that means we need to take off the cover and inspect the grease and the gears for any wear. Now, since I might be spinning the blade over by hand, I'm also going to disconnect and eventually take out the spark plug to make it easier to spin the engine over. Now, with the self-propel handle secured in the working position so the drive belt has tension, I'm going to spin the blade and see if the wheels spin. As you can see, the pulley is spinning, which is great news, but you can also see that the wheels are not moving, which means there's no contact inside the transmission. For the next test, I'm going to use my drill to turn the pulley both directions, and as you can hear, there's some grinding noise from the transmission, and the wheels kind of want to turn, but there's a definite problem inside it. For the next part, I'm going to put the mower on its back, so I need to drain the oil out of the engine, and as you can see, the oil has already turned a brown-gray color just in the short time the engine was ran. I also drained the gasoline out of the tank as well. So here's the cover for the transmission, and as you can see, the grease is clumped up and is in bad condition. This grease should have been replaced a long time ago, and it doesn't look any better inside the transmission. Now with the grease not doing its job lubricating the gears, they've worn down a lot. The only thing I can think of is that the gears have worn to a point that they're no longer making good contact with each other, and the rest of the transmission components are also worn down, allowing more clearances than they're supposed to. If I turn the wheels, you can see that it's making contact now, but that's because the mower is upside down. If we were right side up, the beveled gear would move away from the pinion gear, causing intermittent contact. Now at this point, I'm going to close the transmission up and try to figure out what I'm going to do with this mower. Now it does start and run, and it cuts the grass, but it has no self-propel, so do I try and fix the transmission or leave it alone and just use it as a push mower? Now this mower on a good day might be worth $100 US, but how much more time and money do I want to put towards it? So my question is, should I try and fix the self-propel with new parts? Maybe replace the entire transmission as they're still available, or should I just leave it alone? Now, it was a free mower, and so I didn't spend any money on it, but does that mean I get to spend a lot of money repairing it? Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions, and I hope to see you in the next video.